I want to welcome all of you here this afternoon and our visitors to the Susquehanna Valley Ethical Society, also known by our members as the Valley. To those of you who will be watching later this recording of today's platform, I want to welcome you as well. My name is Patty, and I am presider for this afternoon's platform. If we have any visitors who have not yet given us an email address so that we can include you in our Valley News, you can do so in the chat below, or send an email to info@susquehannavalleyethicalsociety.org. That is our email address. And now I'm going to turn things over to Mike, who is sitting beside me, for some announcements.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today's announcements are Wednesday of this week, March the 16th. Society board meeting will be held at 6 p.m. online. It's open to all SVES members only. And if you would like to attend the meeting, the contact information is info, once again, at susquehannavalleyethicalsociety.org. And there will be a link there so that you can attend.
Well, we'll send the link to them.
We'll send the link to them. Okay,
right.
Well, you don't have that in my notes.
Sorry.
So anyway, Thursday, the following day, March the 17th at 7 p.m. in the evening on Zoom, a brand new ethical action program is now in session. We are excited to join forces with Vanguard Fitness to improve our ethical living through a healthy living. Join professional certified fitness trainer Brian Johnson for a half-hour session of stretching, bending, and exercise to promote wellness in our lives. Check your Valley Ethical Weekly and our website for details and the Zoom link. Raise the Region was successful this year. Thank you all for donating to the Valley Ethical community. We raised, at this point, without any other contributions coming in from the sponsor, $2,815 was raised to support our projects and our programs. Sunday, March the 20th, platform, this coming Sunday, Living Ethics Discussion. Join our lively Living Ethics Discussion group. Bring to the group current topics, issues that are of ethical concern. This is a great opportunity for you to talk to other ethical humanists about our ongoing quest to live a more ethical life and the political, the social life practices, and the ethical choices we confront every day. What motivates you? What gets you in your way? Join us for what will be likely become a favorite Sunday program.
Thank you, Mike, for those announcements.
You're welcome.
Yes, and of course today we do want to welcome Olivia Usby, who is going to is our guest speaker for today, and we will be joining her in just a few moments. And I'd like to share a moment where we ground ourselves so that we're prepared for Olivia's program this afternoon. And why do we meet each Sunday? We meet to deepen our sense of the meaningfulness of life, to shine light on the ideas with which we guide our choices, to give us courage to take the higher path, and to get to know one another over time, an appreciation of each one's unique and incomparable worth. Together, we work for a world where love and justice cross all borders. Our statement of affirmation, and if you have this memorized, you certainly are welcome to read this with me. We affirm the worth, dignity, and uniqueness of every human being. And Anthony has just joined us. Anthony, do you have any other words of calmness meditation you'd like to offer?
Sure. Let us just take a few seconds just to center ourselves. At our community, the Valley, we meet each Sunday. We meet every time to deepen our sense of the meaningfulness of life, to shine light on the ideas with which we guide our choices, to give us courage to take the higher path, and to get to know one another over time in appreciation of each one's unique and incompatible worth. And together, we work for a world where love and justice cross all borders. In our statement of affirmation as a community, we affirm the worth, dignity, and uniqueness of every human being.
Thank you, Anthony.
Very good, Anthony. Very good impromptu there. That was excellent.
Yeah.
Very good.
So appreciate the calmness you bring to that particular moment. Our mission statement, the Susquehanna Valley Ethical Society is a community of all walks of life that learns and grows together through shared values, doing good, and nurturing the human spirit. We are a safe and courageous place in which members can build a community of friends, find inspiration and purpose, provide a moral education for their children, celebrate seasons and life events, and clarify their worldviews. And hello, Aviv and Amir and Jesse. So happy to see you. And now Olivia is sharing a poem with us, and followed by a prompt.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm going to share the prompt during the presentation, but I do have two poems for to get us in that space of the presentation. I did not write them. This is from Alexis Pauline Gumbs' Finding Ceremony. She channeled and wrote a bunch, several dub poems, and the idea is expanding the idea of the ancestor beyond just blood, but also to human, to the ancestor of all humans, the ancestor of non-humans, including humans that were non-humans, enslaved humans, the ancestors as whales and coral and microorganisms and all of the things that make us us. And so she expands the ancestor to everything, all of the energies and organisms that make us us and make us human and precede us as humans. And so so I have two poems to kind of get into the, I keep sneezing, so I'm sorry, get us into the mood for the presentation. There's no names to them. We told you a circle, preferably blessed by a grove of trees, ideally next to a major body of water, so the ground, while temporary, knows roots. So the water, though always moving, has depth for what we do, what we're doing. If you have hands, find a way to hold hands. If you have eyes, use them to look at each other with love. As close to the beginning as possible, bring your folks, that would be us, the beyond bodied. As if we have nothing to do but work for you. Really, we are nothing but the work you still have yet to do. Don't forget that. If you want, strategically time yourselves to meet the sun or the moon or smaller lights like candles or the smiles of children, or do it at a time when people are remembering love, or do it at a time when people have done this before, or do it in a place where enough people have cried that you feel it, a major body of water in the air, or in a place where people have been brave and burned with their belief in change, or in a stolen place among the many stolen places that will not keep, or just a place comfortable enough that there will be old people and children. Remember food or the promise of food, or no one will come, not even us. A circle. You can choose a number like 9 or 21 or 7, but accept the number that arrive. It will be good in some cases to have people you have known a while, in some cases to have people you don't know at all, and sometimes it will just be you, the you becoming, the you been, the you lust for, the you blaming, the you need, the you have, the you haven't thanked yet, and the you before and after that, meaning us. However, the gathering will be there. It's enough. The other poem is short. We let you think you choose. You choose like wind chooses, like water chooses, like heat chooses to move, its path intersecting with everything, its hand touching trees or sand. We let you think you move. You move as much as land, meaning only by an inner heat older than you by centuries. You can think you choose, but we would say you notice or you don't. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Olivia. Both of those were very thought-provoking and moving and fit in with a mission that we have. So thank you for sharing those. And now I am going to turn things over to Olivia for her program today. I believe the title for today's program is Getting Back to the Nature of Organization. So I'm really excited and interested in what Olivia has prepared for us. And take it away, Olivia.
Okay, is there a way I can share my screen?
Yes, there is. Just one moment.
Let me blow my nose.
Yes, you go right ahead while I make you co-host. I see Jay had to pop out. And Anthony, I want to congratulate you.
That's right.
In a
Receiving-
project or something you received to work on a project you have in mind. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Okay, now Olivia, we see your screen.
Okay. I have notes in my lap, so I will be looking down. But so I'm excited to present the nature of an organization based on being rooted like trees. And this is ultimately creative problem solving through looking at the lens of like our master teachers, which is nature, because one thing with the dub poetry is that they are our ancestors, ancient ancestors that have existed through time and mastered their craft and their purpose. And that's something that humans are constantly struggling to do. And so we have a lot to learn from them. A lot of our prototypes come from nature. When we invent, we look at nature to invent products and to figure out how to we look at flying animals and insects to learn how to to improve planes. Like we're constantly looking to nature to improve products and stuff like that. And so I was thinking of why not look at the more moral and value-based way of nature in order to learn from that, because we can very much delineate nature to below us when we miss the the true the true mastery of nature beyond just being able to fly. And so another thing about nature is that I like to expand it beyond just like some fairyland or some, magical place where everything is good, because actually also nature is very ruthless and cutthroat. And yet it can be very balanced until humans come. And so I guess my question is, how do humans work together in an ecosystem to maintain balance and an ecosystem or a community? I have a lot of background in organizations at Ohio University, being the president and vice president of Hip Hop Congress, doing a lot of like activism work, living in co-ops and just working with administrators and being a part of like many groups and observing the way that it can be very difficult for an organization to know when they're succeeding and when they are doing what they're supposed to do outside of money and membership. And so then took that to theology school, where it became larger questions of like community and larger questions of humanity and how do we exist in a balanced ecosystem when the ecosystem is riddled with capitalism, white supremacy, and patriarchy. And it brought me to one day I was just having a really difficult time and humans were just not giving me the answers I needed. And I remember watching something and it talked about talking to trees. And so I just thought, okay, why not? I don't have anything to lose to try except maybe looking sane, and that's okay with me. So I went outside and I find a tree. I had been going outside and sitting with nature and listening every day, and I've always done that. So I touched this tree. Sorry. I touched this tree and I just remember thinking about all the bad things in my life or where I was in life, and I thought, or I said out loud or thought, and I was like, your life seems pretty simple. And immediately in my head, I heard just as simple as yours. And then it was like this visual message sent where I saw going deep down into the roots of a tree. And as it went deep down into the roots, and then saw like going up into it was just taken on this journey of a tree deep down into the roots up the trunk. And then I looked up and saw the branches. I saw how the lines of my hands matched the lines of the trunk of the bark. I saw how there were birds and insects and all these animals in this tree. And another time I talked to a tree and it was raining and I was again complaining, and the tree said, look up and notice you're dry. And so trees providing this shade or this space from a dry space from rain. And so it was basically the message from the tree was, we're all doing the same things. You're just being rooted in one area, growing up and branching out to support a community is kind of the essence of the thing. And so one, it began with this kind of like creative way to problem solve. And so as I think about like organizations, I think about how trees are organizations and how can I translate that into trees being an organization in an ecosystem, and organizations being part of an ecosystem, and how are the organizations rooted and growing and branching out. And so I have a writing prompt, and I imagine the valley as a tree. And if you are talking to this tree that is the valley, and the valley as a tree one day said to me, and begins with, we're rooted in the soil of, and this is something that, like, if you take it out of the valley, it's not the valley. A foundation, we're rooted in the soil of blank, a foundation to grow strong with the force of blank. These would be actions that sprout from the roots. So these things that we're rooted in, what actions grow from that soil. And a foundation to grow strong with the force of blank, and branches reaching out to offer. And so then what are these branches doing for the larger community, or even the inner community? And this is just thinking about, the valley as a tree where we come for shelter and shade. And we have this exchange like trees where, maybe the valley filters the air of CO2 or produces oxygen, and we exchange CO2. There's this exchange that's happening in the valley. And so this can be something that you write as much as you want. You can write bullet point words, sentences. I don't think we have time for paragraphs, but whatever response you want. Or you could just sit back and imagine and see what comes, and visions or sound or words or feeling, or even just reflecting on how this prompt even makes you think. And so it can be anything. Please get poetic, creative, and it doesn't have to make any type of sense. It's just an expression of this. And I think I'll do like 5 minutes. Is that enough time? Okay. All right. In 5 minutes. All right. So I see some of you shared. I was going to go to the next slide and go in more detail. And as I go in more detail, you can add more detail to what you're doing, what you have written. So one thing that I got from this tree and have noticed is that, and just in general, being rooted from also what we find with Alexis Pauline Gumbs' poems and the idea of ancestry, is that being rooted is extremely important. If you think about like the way a tree grows, like from the first, I don't know how to move this. From this first picture, you see like the roots have to be many times a similar length as the growth. It's an extremely important part of growing, and that's one thing that I got from the tree, was that the roots is like, if you don't have nutrients in the soil, then, or if you don't have the right soil, it doesn't matter what you're trying to grow. And so when thinking about ethical culture, or thinking about the Valley being rooted in ethical action and humanism, and then we've also talked about arts and creativity and the youth. The first step is digging very deep into those roots, which is something that I've seen as I've like been joining, something that is done a lot here. We're very have many conversations. For example, the conversations we've been having on why humanism is going very deep into the roots of why humanism, what is ethical action, and then also getting into like, or at least, the arts and fitness and when I've been like listening, someone mentioned that being an alternative to traditional religion, there's also been deeply rooted in, beyond just humanism or ethical action, there's also this sort of pain of religious trauma and the simplicity and complexity of focusing on humans and community, because it can be very simple and it can also be very complex, aside from some abstract deity. And so there's these roots that, as they go deeper and deeper, we find them just hitting on like very basic human essentials. The pain of religious trauma is found in any religion, whether people acknowledge it or not. And so, and I was noticing as I like went through this, as we dig deeper into the roots of what we're doing here, and digging deep into the roots of religious trauma gets us back to, no matter what community we are humans, which gets back to humanism. And so it's just this clarifying cycle, and also being rooted in having community that values thought and intuition, and conversation over like maybe a more traditional worship of in spirit filled space. And so I guess digging into the roots is getting at very fundamental human expressions, fundamental human needs, And that, I think, being rooted in digging your roots deep into those fundamentals begin to lead you to actions. Because if you are dealing with, if we're digging roots deep into religious trauma, there immediately begins the space, opening a space of healing from religious trauma. So doing the, was the ethical life sessions or having conversations on how someone has healed their religious trauma through humanism, or if you have, digging roots deep into, I guess what I'm saying is, as we dig deeper into roots, we hit a point where the action comes. If we're digging deep into roots and we find that we hit a point of youth, then we know there's youth programs to develop. If we hit roots and we find that the people in our community and the empathy for the people in our community and the creativity of the people in our community is something that is important, then these actions will sprout from from digging into the roots. And so yeah, the root digging is extremely important. I've seen us be in that process constantly here. And so the next question is, like, with these actions, what are we trying to grow? Because we say we like wanting to grow the community. And as I was moving through this, I was almost reminded of like the abundance mindset of nature. So when we're looking at what to grow and where, looking at the values that come up in the roots, turning them into actions. So looking into having intellectual conversations, focusing on art and creativity, healing, religious trauma, there seems to ultimately the abundance mindset of nature, which is one of the hardest things I think for humans to appreciate about nature, is that it's not necessarily the focus should be on how do we grow numbers of people or how do we grow more money. The tree, when I spoke to the tree, there was never a mention necessarily of even like what to take, what to receive. It, if you are growing, the rain falls. So you will be watered. And as you, spread, as you're supporting community, there's always that exchange. Like I said, the tree needs the carbon dioxide and we need the oxygen. There's always that interconnectedness. And so ultimately the idea of like what to grow, it was a deeper process of being rooted in something that is essential, growing and sharing that. And the rest in that process, in the growing process, there's always that mystical, intuitive, however you want to describe it, force of nature that makes the plant grow from opposite of gravity. And so there's this like, the abundance mindset of nature is not necessarily about how many people do we need, how much money do we need, because the rain will fall if you are supporting your people. If you are deeply rooted in where you're supposed to be, the tree won't fall over. There's the abundance mindset is I guess what I'm getting and is most important. And so yeah, it brought me to questions of like, what are we, if we're growing numbers, what does that actually mean? That could mean like what we were talking about, how do we share our abundance? What are we deeply rooted in? How do we find abundance in that? And then how do we spread the word and say, this is what humanism is, like we were talking about before, sharing what is humanism and what do we do, putting that out there, which is a whole community cultivation on its own, because like we have to do here, we have to sit here and we have to find the abundance in what we do. We have to think about it, and then sharing it is it's just this continuous process. And as people are looking for abundance, they will find it as we find it. And so if we're looking for numbers, the numbers is not the point, but the point of the numbers is to share the abundance so that other people see the abundance and join us. If we're looking for cohesiveness, it's seeing the abundance and what people, having like the fitness program or poetry or collaborate. If we have members who want to have, like, as you all were talking in the beginning, who want to have political conversations, and we can foster or support that in some way. And we have people who are talented writers, whether academic or not. There's like all of these gems that we have. And for me, I know I've sat in community and been like, I don't even know what to do for y'all. And it wasn't until, we all have like hobbies, little things that we're good at that we don't even think to share them. And those are all like, fostering those are ways in which we like strengthen the trunk of the tree, so that there's like, y'all get the metaphor. And then there's also the branching out for like, in terms of like resources. Again, that's just more of an idea of like marketing being focused on how do we share our abundance to receive abundance. The water will fall. And so the whole process is like shifting from abundance of nature instead of the lack of society. And so, yeah, I don't really have answers. I always like to leave with questions and a sort of open-endedness, a sort of abundance of like the infinite ways we can just react to this and respond. And so, yeah, I guess this is like in moving forward, how in being rooted and while we have these conversations about our roots and the roots of the valley, how can we, as we're having these conversations, how can we keep in our head the different ways that we see actions sprouting from our roots, the potential of actions, and focus it on like what abundance we're finding here, and sharing that. And so I kind of want to just go into like sharing, if you all want to share what you wrote about the valley as a tree, and what this tree said to you.
I want to hop in real fast because I want to try to get back to this conference. But first of all, I want to say thank you, because what I do appreciate about our community is that we're open to exploring two things, I think, in this space. Using Anthony Penn's research, right? The moral imagination, and so basically what is our moral courage in developing our organization, right? What is the moral courage that we bring that actually offers us this sense of abundance, right? These things that Jesse and Amir were mentioning around influence, presence, reliability, and integration, right? Those are things that are really, core attributes that, allow for us to show up. But when we do show up, right, we do automatically just receive if we do those things, or somehow something will become available, right? I think there's that. And, you know, and I think that there's also, you know, there's also the poetic imagination here at work, right? Where we are actually working in the in the poetic, but like, and I think it's where I often say this for us is that when we take the poetic imagination, which comes from the scholar Dr. James Cone, right? That when we talk about liberation, it's rooted in the poetic imagination. When we talk about it from Anthony Penn's approach, right, regarding humanism, it's the moral imagination. And somehow ethical culture rests in between the two, right? Where I like to think of it as the ethical imagination. All those two combined give us this kind of poetic flexibility in addition to our moral courage. And we engage them both. And so I want to say thank you for helping us engage them both simultaneously and not find them to be different from each other. And so for just want to help some of our dear friends also kind of make that connection as well. What I am asking as a pondering question for some of us as we begin to share out, in addition to the growing into, I asked the question around, you know, how do we enhance our organizational attraction, right? I asked that question because I think there's a lot of things that are attractive about our community. And I asked that because anyone who realizes that they are attractive, right? You know, it's almost a compliment is nothing but confirmation. It's not affirmation. And so I sit with the fact that it is confirmation. And so I would like to pivot off of that idea that we have to realize, and as me and Anthony are in this conference together, I have realized while being at the Secular Coalition with so many executive directors, that there's a part of us that we have to navigate something attractive that we already offer. And that has really been hard to communicate in my position because I'm not the executive director to speak to that. And so it's really interesting to kind of only if you will, embody what my ethical culture is and having people become curious to that, right? And then having these executive directors like, oh, you're part, yeah, I'm surprised you're part of ethical culture. I didn't know you were here, you know, and to then reimagine, right, what we are doing. So I just want to say thank you, Olivia. And I want us to think about that idea of organizational attraction so that in the end, that because we find ourselves attraction, even the rain, as Olivia puts it, will fall because compliments fall when something's attractive. And you got to know that you're worth the rain. If you will, that you are worth the rain, and that we just gonna let it, let it rain and pour it out, right? And that's kind of how our community can be. Can let it rain and pour it out, and we give it back out, and it comes back in again, and it's just that. And so how are we doing that? I see that we do that very well with our Zoom communities and things like that. When we think about Lewisburg and the need that's there, I mean, we see Jessie tackling some of those things too with just putting out her program, and now I mean her business, right? And that being so, this kind of letting it rain and pouring it out. How do we begin to do all of those things simultaneously? And so I am interested in our attraction, our law of attraction. Maybe that's what that is. Maybe our law of attraction as an act of nature regarding the nature of our organization. And that people are actually getting more from it than what we think. And we don't, and if we can figure out what those words are, what those things are, we can also communicate that as maybe core values. So I just want to point that out. I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, and one thing that I loved about why I thought of Alexis Pauline Gumbs in this book is because humanism, she expands the idea of a human and and what connects humans. And I think that's one thing that because when I was looking for some like religious space to go to, humanism was I was reading all the religions and humanism was the only one that I was like, okay, maybe. I didn't know what it was, but it's I think because it is so simple, like humans, of course, duh. It is so, but it's very expansive and translatable um, to many people. So you can have something like dub where you're talking about ancestors and that connecting to like non-human ancestors, enslaved ancestors, choral. You get all the, um, choral and whale, and you get all the it's very expansive. Like the idea of human is very expansive, and I think humanism can be very translatable. And I think this is like a perfect time to just show how translatable it can be, because so many people are sick of religious trauma and are especially after COVID. One thing I noticed, the shift in my theology school, was the conversations and the shift from before COVID and after COVID. People were like, it was like I was finally like, oh, now you hear what I'm talking about, like, because there's this huge shift in like, oh, this isn't working, and there's something else. So a lot of people are seeking, and I think humanism is like expansive enough and translatable enough, if we are willing to embrace that, to speak many different languages.
I have a question launching off of what Jay, I'm sorry, what Jay was talking about, the attractiveness of the Valley. I'm new to this relatively, so I'm wondering what sort of coalitioning with like-minded groups does the Valley reach out to coalition in any kind of causes, other groups and causes, to increase our allyship with those groups, because the attractiveness of a group depends on larger community as well, and coalitioning is a way to build a larger community. So I'm wondering if anybody can speak on that.
Yeah, where we have built these relationships has come a lot through some of the projects and organizations that we support. We support a homeless shelter, and do provide, things when there is a call from them in need of stocking their shelves, or in need of, we buy stuffed animals for the children who are living at the shelter, and so these connections, we work with foster care agencies. We have done some projects with some interfaith work and speaking at different events that they hold, which are, centered around, issues of justice. It's, I guess it's hard to spread us out in making connections with a lot of different groups in our area because of size and, folks having, lots of things going on in their lives. So I don't know that we've done a grand job, but with the folks that we have, I think we're doing I will say a suitable job.
I think, Patty, we were doing a really good job before COVID. COVID changed the whole thing. We were out there at every, you know what I mean? Any kind of rally, we were out there putting ourselves out. I mean, even I went to Washington with one of our sons a couple of times, you know, we were putting ourselves out there, but then now in the age of COVID, it's like, here I am in my man cave here, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
I could put all the signs. I went up in here. I was only one guy and a dog seeing them. You know? So, you know, once we start opening up again, I think we can get ourselves out there a little more. But it's been a tough road here the last 2 years. And just to see how we survive is just enough to gives me heart for it, you know.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I was thinking we'd probably die during this, but here we are.
I would say, to go back to the metaphor, I think when we because we are like deeply rooted in what we're doing, you know, a tree that is deeply rooted, there's weather. So you can't control the weather, but a deeply rooted tree will like survive through that weather. So COVID is a weather that I think is not going to go away anytime soon. I don't think there's a opening up that's going to be happening. So I think it's more so like, how do we creatively keep growing? You know, you see trees that like a branch will fall off or something will move, but it'll just keep going this way or that way. And so I think it's just like important to just be creative now in like the way that we move, because I don't think that we can control the weather.
One of the things that I want to point out too, and I don't, this is in response to Laura's question, and I'm being mindful that it possibly could not be specific to our community at large, right? But I want to be very clear because the capacity in which I'm in, right, as a consulting leader, can inform a lot of that relationship building. And one thing about navigating the space that I'm in is that I have to make sure that when I'm in spaces like right now, the Secular Coalition is connected to other larger or sometimes quaint organizations. None of them are all massive. I honestly think that if I probably brought you all here, it would have been, y'all would probably have been bigger than some, if not, you know, because of just the way and the capacity of the work. Some of the work is policy work regarding litigations. And some of the work is rooted in particular frameworks around social justice, but really more so policies. We do have some lobbyist kind of things. And Anthony, you can correct me if I'm wrong. And I mean, because Anthony's been with me this entire week and watching how and has been a witness as someone who's not a part of ethical culture from outside, but has been a witness to who is the AEU in relationship to the Secular Coalition versus, I'll bring up the verse in this, versus who is Susquehanna, right? And this clergy person who represents Susquehanna in this space. It's almost like night and day. And it's because I could talk about what the Valley is doing. So I made some connections. So we have a new relationship that will be developing regarding Beyond Belief Foundation and their efforts around homelessness. I decided because of I really considered the fact that I know the brilliance that Jesse and Amir offer regarding food. They are worried about food scarcity currently right now. And I was concerned specifically for those individuals in our community that are either homeless, and particularly those LGBTQ youth that are being thrown out of their homes, who are left to find food for themselves. How can we get connected? And then the question that I even asked this organization is, will they come and speak? They're willing to come and speak. The goal after they speak is who will pick up the mantle to go with it, right? Because I can present it, but somebody's got to pick up the mantle to run with it. I can't run with it because I've got to make sure that we're in conversation. We can do more as a smaller institution, right? But we actually have the ability to do it, right? And we can get the funding, but it depends on how we decide to show how attracted we are to what this organization is offering in relationship to how much we are motivated to carry out that attraction. Right. Since I've been here, I've connected with of course, we had Nadia. We were looking at the relationship with the chapters. Nadia spoke very highly, even to Bart about the work that is happening here in the Valley, and pointed that out very clearly. And made a quick assessment about how we have postured ourselves regarding being more interconnected with doing work with the AHA. And right, and this is a different approach. And I have to be very honest with you on a very transparent end. I have to be careful because I am not the executive director and I'm not the president of our society. So I have to be very mindful that the work I am simply doing is developing just exactly what Laura is talking about, these kind of coalitions. And so the programs that we have that are internal, particularly the fitness program, particularly as we refine PRISM, particularly with regards to Raise the Region, I made sure that I put out my email and I literally wrote very direct emails to very specific people to make sure that they were donating. I made sure it was not just a Facebook post, because people they were like, oh, great, you're doing a fundraiser. You got to ask people directly for their pockets, and you got to do it. And sometimes that's not what we want to do. But in the end, when we're doing a Raise the Region and you only got 24 hours to do it, we got to do that kind of connection work. And so I find that if there's a momentum, and I am fortunate, I am in a space where I'm able to be connected to larger cities, and the economics are different. And I'm able to possibly ask for certain things that necessarily could not be asked for, particularly within the Susquehanna region. And I think that if we think about these connections, and maybe we need to think about how we can make sure we put aside even maybe moments for Patty to come to these coalitions and represent, because we have our own polity outside of the AEU to form other alliances beyond just what I just did, right? Beyond, working with the Free Thought Society and bringing them in. Camp Quest is highly interested in your program, Jesse, and what you're looking to do, and if there's any way that Camp Quest can be involved with you in what you're doing. So I'm willing to talk about things that glitter like gold, but you got to realize that you're gold. We can't just think of ourselves as small. We are very big and hard, and in many ways we have a very quaint approach, and we're very hospitable. Folk are drawn to that because everybody else is just money hungry. We want to take those resources from a hospitable place and use them in a very hospitable way. We have a very different angle because we know how to massage the heart. Right. And I think that there's something there with that. So I just want to add to that brilliance. I know we're doing a lot of different things, and and it's something, and Phyllis is doing this work, and Jesse's doing work. Like right now we're almost talking amongst each other. We've got to expand that attraction to find out our niche and our needs and our network. But we can only do but so much as we're trying to figure it out. So I definitely say, just, y'all want to do a YouTube? Y'all want to do that? Let me know. I think it's very important. I think we can do that network. I think we can actually.
I would love to do that.
Yeah, and like if it's something that you feel like, hey, we want to uphold the integrity of what the Valley is doing, but we want to bring it from a very raw place, that's okay. I think it's very possible.
I'm wondering, I've been doing a whole lot of reading and research on mass incarceration lately. And I lived in Lewisburg, and I know there's a penitentiary there. And there's also two prominent universities in the area, at least. And Chris Hedges' work in penitentiaries, I mean, I know he's a big name, and he had the ability to go into a maximum security prison and teach classes in prison. And actually, some of those prisoners are graduating from Rutgers. One of the prisoners graduated summa cum laude. He was teaching a drama class, and it turned into a play called Caged, which is this amazing just story of radical love. And Kim and I were talking about trying to figure out a way to get that play produced in the Susquehanna Valley. I wish I were closer, but has anyone thought about reaching out to maybe some professors at Bucknell or Susquehanna University to start a program like that in the prison, and maybe presenting the idea of producing Caged with the input of some of the prisoners there? I mean, I'm thinking locally, I guess, in terms of activity and coalition. And I know that those are two prominent, probably the biggest employers in the Susquehanna Valley are the prison and the university.
University. And we also have, not to interrupt you, I just wanted to remind everybody, we have 3 prominent community theaters that thrive in this valley.
And I mean, that would be such an outreach in terms of ethics and love and community and social justice, huge in social justice, and bringing so many issues into the community by producing this play. And, it's an idea. And I'm just, I love these kind of discussions because they continually just like have inspire ideas to pop in your mind, and so I'm throwing that out there. I wish I lived closer. Jay, thank you for clarifying that. And everyone, I really appreciate the answer to my question, and I will shut up now.
Yeah.
We have we do have some prison connections, just to say, add to that too. We just have not been able to really exercise that currently right now with the weight of with the experience of COVID. I know me and Phyllis have been in mentioning of it. It has not been a refined discussion because there's a lot already on our plate. I also want to make sure that we are deeply undergirded as a community first with holding people together because of such a very awkward time, and particularly because of our just be honest, our membership has a tendency to be is more seasoned. So where like it would be great to do such things. I want to respect the fact that like not everybody has that same ability, to go and just get up and do these things. So with that said, we do have one person that I do know in Susquehanna that actually works in the prison system that also does plays, and we've actually
Wow, what a resource.
Yeah, and so I think that would be a great way for us to maybe explore those options at some point when we can start really opening up. And maybe that's something we can look forward to in the summer and figure out what are the logistics, because that will take some serious logistic work. And if you and Kim are interested in doing that logistical work, we can make the connection. I think it's just making sure that we are in the proper procedures and policies, and also insurance. So there's right there, this is the organizational kind of blah stuff that we don't like to talk about. But like, if we're going to open up, I mean, if I may, let's just be real, like even going back to Olivia's image of the tree, even trees open up for the birds. leaving trees open up for the squirrels. And if the trees are able to open up, I'm sure we're able to do the same thing. And we've got to reimagine what opening looks like. I agree with Jesse in this post, you know, that was just posted around, like, you know, us stepping out, a baby, you know, speaking, you know, to other people. And we've got to do that. We've got to do that. So, you know, there's some stuff there. I do hear it. You know, I mean, heck, and I'm not, and trust me, anybody I've spoken with in this community, I'm not just sitting on ideas. I'm really, really just trying to get the right communities and networks so that we can talk about getting those resources, because none of you have ever introduced to me anything that does not have an idea that can't happen. I want to see them happen. I just want to make sure that we get the real grounding support. As I've been talking to some people, I just talked to somebody in you know, gosh, she's I just spoke with her this weekend. She's in Ohio. She's in the Akron region. I told her that I had talked to Amir about our idea of this assembly, and you know, and she like lit up and she was like, I would love to see what kind of way we can brainstorm together, because I would love to see this whole entire mountain region take on a whole different approach to doing community work. So I want to just, you know, encourage y'all to know that I'm not sitting on ideas. I know it seems like we're, you know, but, you know, as I'm trying to branch out and also be in another space at the same time, it always fascinates me to try to do this work and try to do what even Anthony's doing, right? Like he can center us, but we're always on the go because we're trying to really get this work out here for a lot of people and also get people to know what we do. You know, but I do have an obligation to this community as of right now with you know, as a consulting clergy, to ensure that we have those connections and try to make those things happen.
Right. Right, exactly, Jay. And I really want to encourage our members to reach out among ourselves. When you have something, you know, there's a phone, there's an email, there's so many ways to reach out to me, to Phyllis, you know, to Jay. You know, and it does take, you know, I talk about radical community. You know, this is what it takes. You know, yeah, it doesn't always mean that we have to be out seeking for money and that we're looking for people because we need their money. We are a people organization. We do the work for people. Unfortunately, in order to keep our community functioning, yeah, we do need funds. I mean, this, for example, Zoom, you know, it doesn't come free. You know, so any of the infrastructure, the things that we need just to operate do require the giving, but it's us doing the work. And
just if I'll add to that too, just
Please.
on a very specific level, very specifically, I know that many folk have asked about where is Lindsay and how come Lindsay has not been back. We have a relationship with Lindsay where the music does cost for us to do. It is not free. And even I myself as an artist, I understand the importance of creative integrity. And I wanted to, you know, give us the opportunity to see if anybody was interested in being or felt motivated to really just support just the music, right? And so if we like music that much on a Sunday, I think it's, you know, it's important for us to just, you know, especially if that person is particularly asking to, you know, be compensated in that way, you know, and can't necessarily just do it, you know. I would humbly, you know, would humbly like for y'all to, someone to consider, or anyone to consider in this group, hey, I'll take care of that expense for Lindsay, because that's it's a really good thing to have her, when we have her every 2 Sundays. That way, when we invite people in, they get a chance to not only just have poetry and all of that, they get a chance to experience music, and it's original, and it's to our community, and it fits the need of it fits the sound of our community. I think that's very important. And so, think about those things, in that I am trying to, and from my perspective, give you a sample of what is possible. And we need that motivation to help grow those things, and sometimes we're going to have to water folk in their gift. Whether we water them with our presence, in the words of what Jesse said, whether we, water them with our sense of reliability, whether we, kind of water them with with even just offering community. It's important. One way or another, we just have to honor what that water is for some folk, and meet them where that, in that sense. If somebody asks me for water, I'm not going to give them vinegar. Okay. That's what my grandmama would say. So, let's try to figure out what that looks like.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Jay. And I just want to thank everyone. And I know your heads are spinning and the ideas are all there, and you're anxious to be able to share. And I know Olivia is going to be back with us for more sessions where, we're going to be able to be creative in space with her. Know that next Sunday we do have our living ethics discussions, so we can continue, these ideas. Jay.
Yeah, I just want to let y'all know too. I would love it and I just would encourage y'all, if y'all can, to email Patty. We'll just send a reminder out, but just feedback on how this moment went, because if Olivia is going to continue to do this, these are going to be phases. These are going to be these are very good, curiosity, challenging phases that bring us together in a very mobilized way. So this is different than a little bit of our ethical living. This is really to get us mobilized and figuring out what our organizational fortitude is. Olivia is offering to do that work. I'm really glad that she is, but I want to make sure that we give Olivia feedback, real healthy feedback, so that she can strengthen her skill set, because she also wants to refine this so that she can use it to help other communities. And I'll be taking Olivia alongside with me to do this work to enhance these other communities as well. So don't sleep on this. This is a really good opportunity for us to figure out how to help somebody else go into a further space. In addition to, we become, right, the preliminary, the prototype, whatever have you, right, to anchor what humanism can look like, right? And that's absolutely something very unique right now, that honestly, where I'm at, they're not having that conversation. They already have an idea of what they think it needs. We can push on that further. So I just wanted to say that. I'm going to let y'all go. I love y'all much. Y'all be good.
Love you, Jay. Thank you. Bye-bye. And I want to leave everyone with that homework assignment, if you want to call it that, to please do provide feedback today. And I want all to have a great week. Remember, board, we do have a board meeting Wednesday evening, and I'll be getting information out on that. Olivia, you have a super week. We'll see you next Sunday, I hope. And Laura, Kim, Jesse, Amir, and
Rick,
Phyllis, and
Rick.
Lena, Rick, yep, we'll see you. Bye.
Bye,
Oh,
Olivia.
bye there.
Bye, everyone. Love you
Bye.
guys.
Bye.